that you abolished the diaper tax.
The thing is, if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia. Every single one is different right now.
And you're the dean of the School of Communications at Quinnipiac University for...
Because it's allowed me to understand education.
I started traveling the country, just training people to understand these disabilities.
That was one of the reasons why I brought you on to discuss that.
Monday night, 8 p.m. EST.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pamela Roth Live. It is Monday, October 24th, 2022, and the days of October are flying by. Can you imagine it's almost Halloween?
Yes. And I got nothing to wear.
Go naked. Well, tonight's special guest is George Saltz. George Saltz, if I may say, is 88 years young, 88 like the piano keys. And George is one of New York's funniest Jewish comics. Welcome, George.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So I'm going to ask you, how did your journey start from what you did in the past to now being a stand-up comic?
I always wanted to do comedy since I was 10 years old. And I was sure I would do it. I was the funniest kid I knew at 10. At 11, I was the funniest kid I knew. So I figured when I grow up, I'll be the funniest comic I know. And I did that. Finally, at 28, after I got my doctorate, a PhD in psychology.
So wait a second.
Yeah.
Besides being a comic, you're a psychologist?
Yes. Clinical psychologist. And I did that for 32 years.
So can I ask you, is it true? Are all comics crazy?
The ones I know, yeah.
Is that me included?
I don't know you that well, but...
Wait a second,
I suspect
but you did invite me to your couch. Was that for an examination?
yes, more or less. More or less. And anyway, at 28, I went to see this young comedian, Woody Allen, at the bitter end. And finally, I said, there's somebody funnier than Georgie. I had to admit it. And he became my idol. And I love his humor, not his lifestyle, but his humor. And this is what I proceeded. And at 18, I was good enough to get hired in the Catskills. And I thought, this is all I want to do. I'd be another Shecky Green, Myron Cohen, and all that. And the next day I got fired.
So wait, you were performing comedy up in New York. Wasn't that called the Borscht Belt?
Yes. Yep. And I got fired because I had stage fright. And I said, I'll be back. Someday I will be back. And I kept my word. 64 years later, I returned and was at the Broadway Comedy Club. And I performed. And
what was your first performance? Was that at 64 years old? What was the first comedy club that you performed at? Was that Broadway?
Broadway Comedy Club. And I was given, because I was afraid of stage fright, so I brought 81 people with me.
81?
Yes, to be one for each year, and to be comfortable. And it worked. I've never had stage. It's like I'm talking here now since then. And they gave me 8 minutes because I brought so many people. And the 8 minutes took 14 minutes with all the laughter and applause. And it's all been uphill since then. And it's my passion, and I love it. And I'm happier now than any part of my life, just doing comedy.
Well, I know not only have I seen you in person, but I've also had the privilege of working with you at a number of comedy shows. Yeah. And you are very funny.
Thank you.
Now, since you've been doing this, now you've actually watched a lot of comedians in your lifetime. Mm-hmm. Okay. How do you see a lot of the comedians today from the ones that you grew up watching?
Well, the thing is, the audience attention span is so much shorter that when I watched them, they were wonderful storytellers, George Burns, Alan King, just wonderful. Even Cosby. Cosby was wonderful. And but now the attention span is so short that it goes the other way. It's just bare bones. You have to get rid of all the unnecessary words, and like have 7 laughs a minute and all that crap. And it's completely different. And I work within that because this is what the audience wants.
Right.
So. Both ways I could do it.
So how many years now have you been performing comedy?
Well, since I was 18, so and I'm 88.
Happy birthday and God bless you for being 88.
Thank you. Yeah.
So do you have any big plans of where you want to perform when you turn 89?
My big goal is to be on Netflix. I mean, right now it's the big goal, and have my own show, and we'll see.
Now, I know you perform in a number of clubs around New York.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, besides Broadway,
Right.
What are some of the other clubs that you perform at?
The Comic Strip, Stand Up New York. I've been in Westchester.
The Pack Center.
What the Pack Center?
The Pack Center in Westchester.
Yes, and just everywhere. It's just I just love it.
But when you started that first show that you did at Broadway, how did that come about? Did someone recommend you? Did you walk in there and say, "Hi, I'm Georgie, and I want to perform here"?
That's a good question. I always hate it when people say good question.
I do ask good questions. This is why I get paid the big bucks.
The big bucks. Because what happened was, now I remember. I had a friend that had his 50th anniversary, and he invited me. And I was taking care of my wife, and she has dementia. She had dementia for 12 years. I took care of her, and I was sort of depressed over all of that.
Right.
Finally, I got invited for my friend's 50th anniversary because I used to do his show, his anniversary every year. And I went out. It was in the Montauk, and I just did a few minutes, and there were 90 people, and they really loved it. And then the next week, I went up to Pennsylvania for another 60th anniversary. It just happened that way, and it was even better. And so when I came back, I decided I'm ready to take a comedy course. And so I took one at the Gotham Comedy Club.
Right.
And Dave LaBarca was the teacher. And I almost dropped out a few times. I didn't think it was for me, but the wind-up was he taught me very well in terms of what the audiences today want, in terms of cutting to the bone and all that. And then I took another class with Jim, the Greek guy, Moran. I forgot already. And he also taught me just in a different way. And between the two of them, I really got a terrific education. So, okay. So that between the two, I really got a good education. So.
But you've met a lot of new friends through all of this?
Yes.
Which is nice.
Okay, what's that? New friends?
Yep.
Yes.
New comedy friends.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Love them. Yeah. One of them, of course, is Gladys. Gladys Simon.
And we speak about Gladys Simon, who we refer to as the godmother of comedy.
Yes, the comedy legend.
She's a comedy legend. In fact, she used to own Hamburger Harry's.
She ran it, yeah.
Oh, she ran
Yeah.
comedy at Hamburger Harry's back in the day.
Right then. And she's a comedy legend.
She is a comedy legend. We refer to her lovingly as the godmother of comedy.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's how I met her, doing stand-up comedy at the comic strip, and that's how I met you.
Right.
If it wasn't for Gladys, I never would have met you.
Right. And she's gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, but bigger in terms of legend. And I also met
Natalie Levant.
Natalie Levant, yes.
Natalie Levant, and we're going to do a little shout out to Natalie, who's out in Philly.
Philadelphia.
She's out in Philadelphia, and we actually got to perform together. I met Natalie, who is a little older than 88.
She's 92.
She's 92.
She's my big sister, yeah.
92, going strong. And this woman, if you have an opportunity to see both George and Natalie perform together, you are in for an amazing treat. Natalie is a firecracker.
She curses like a sailor, and she's funny as all hell. She's really
But you know something? She's free to say whatever she wants and no holds barred,
Right.
which is phenomenal. And that's what keeps her young and going. But at the same time, too, that's what comedy's all about. Because what do you think about nowadays that you have to watch what you say as a comedian, because people will go back into your past and bring up something from 30 years ago to try and sully your name now?
It doesn't apply to old people.
Right.
Because, if a little kid says fuck you to the cop isn't going to do anything.
Right.
If an older person does, he's in trouble. It's the same way. I'm like the little kid. I can say politically incorrect things. And many times as I get off the stage, one of the younger comics says, how come he could say that and I can't? And it's true, so I can say things that are politically incorrect. And there's still
No repercussions.
Okay. Yep, no repercussions at all.
But nowadays, too, they talk about watching what we say as comics. And also, you saw what happened when that, oh my goodness, Will Smith rushed the stage. And then you had the smack in the face, the smack heard around the world.
Right. Well, I had a situation where at open mic, I had to go on first. I usually don't, but my nephew wanted to go home early. And the fellow right after me, before I got out, a white fellow, and he said the N-word twice. And somebody came up and punched him. And that was really big news at the time.
Well, was this after the Chris Rock?
No, way before. Way before. And but it was in the papers and all of that. And this guy, it was a decent guy, and he calmed down and all that. Then the next week, I was on, and there was a guy who I followed, who was a Sikh. He had the turban and all of that. And I used to, at that time, in other words, if there was somebody as opposite from me as possible, I would usually say, he stole my whole freaking act, and all of that. So this guy, I said, he stole my whole freaking act. I said, I was going to wear the towel from Hotel Teresa and, all of that. And then I said, oh, shit, he's going to hit me. And I was afraid, but nothing happened. So when you're at this age, they make exceptions and they accept it. So it's great. Natalie has the same thing. And
but what do you think about, obviously that whole situation between Will Smith and Chris Rock? It was talked about for days, weeks, and months. And, because following that incident, so many of us as comedians were wondering, if we say something, whether it's a Broadway comedy club or Gotham or the comic strip, if we say something, what protections do we have of somebody possibly running up to the stage and smacking us because they don't like what we say? But how do you feel about that? Did you feel that was necessary or not necessary?
What was necessary? You mean what?
Will Smith's reaction to Chris Rock?
No. I think he was pussy whipped. I think it was his wife's displeasure with it. And he went up and he did it. And he's paying the price now for it.
Because you think about all the comedians, I know you're a little older than me, okay? But, not older. Okay. So, growing up, my parents loved Don Rickles. They used to take me to see Don Rickles and Buddy Hackett when they used to perform out at the Westbury Music Fair out in Long Island. And Don Rickles would say whatever he wanted. He was great at heckling and insulting everybody. That was his shtick. Could you see a Don Rickles performing in today's comedy scene, in this political climate?
Yeah, but in a different way. I think Bill Burr does, and some people can, but
Right.
it's a bit different. But in a certain way, I think he angered people more than
Entertain them?
Yeah, as I speak to people who were there, they were hurt more by him at the time than now.
You talk about Don Rickles?
Yeah, yeah. Just anecdotally, my
Right.
friend's wife and so on. Because he said something about her going to the bathroom. The usual. And he was brilliant. He was a wonderful actor as well.
Yeah, he was great. I remember him in Hogan and Kelly's Heroes.
Yes. And his daughter is doing it. And I did a show through Gladys.
Really?
Yeah.
Is her last name Rickles?
Yeah. What was it? Mindy Rickles.
Right. Well, because you know Jackie Mason.
Yeah.
Jackie Mason was amazing.
New.
You knew him?
He's gone.
I know. I'm saying, but I know Jackie Mason was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I know. He passed away within the past year.
Yeah.
But I remember meeting Jackie years ago as he was my mentor, because I too wanted to do this many years ago. And then, of course, school, career, marriage, and family got in the way.
Yeah.
And I finally got to start doing this over 4 years ago, again, thanks to Gladys as well.
Yeah.
But looking back at, say, even Jackie Mason had his way of saying things and doing things.
The musicality of it.
Right.
It was, he could literally read a phone book and, you think, what? And all that.
He had that saying and the cadence and the way he spoke, and it's like, and you go into a neighborhood on a Saturday, and it's on the Jewish neighborhood. It's quiet on a Saturday. You go and the goyim banging and talking and noise. I mean, but he could carry that off amazing.
He gave me great advice though once. He asked me, "Do I use any F words?" And I said, "Just one." And he said, "What is it?" And I said that I got a few things on my bucket list, all that. And I say, "This is how things changed. A couple of years ago, it was my bucket list." And he said, "Don't use it."
Right.
And so for a while, I followed him. And then finally I said, "Fuck it," and I'm using it. But that was the advice he gave me. And he was supposed to come to my show to watch me. He'd heard a lot about this 80-plus comedian. He wanted to see him. And he came to my show. He was going to come on my 84th birthday. But I was beginning to have some congestive heart problems. So I canceled him. I said, I may or may not be there.
Right.
If I do, it probably won't be my best hour. So why don't we change it? So he didn't come on that. I wound up going, and I performed. I performed sitting down, but I performed. I did 35 minutes and got a standing ovation, and it was good.
Now, when they stood, did you get to stand too, or you still sat?
I still sat. I couldn't. I mean, I was really, and then the next time he was supposed to see me, he took the coward's way out, and he passed away on that just recently, and so he's never seen me except up in the big sky.
Well, I think he's watching over you.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Bullshit. But anyway, so it's just really just. But he, I don't think he and Buddy Hackett, I would say, were the biggest laugh getters. And Shecky Green. I mean, they're really just tumultuous. And just very, very big people. I grew up a block away from Mel Brooks, and my older brother, went to high school with him. He sat in front of him on study hour, so he heard all of his routine. Gotta shut that up. And he was called Crazy Melly then. The Ritz brothers were there. Many times I would see Alan King walking by with his laundry, his clothes and so on. And it was a whole kind of area, and it was just fantastic. And
I remember when my brother was in college. My brother's older than me. he used to take me to see a lot of the different comedians because they were all performing the college circuit back then. And I had the pleasure of seeing Robert Klein.
Fantastic.
He was
Fantastic.
a different type of comedian, very thought-provoking. And he was a teacher. And then I also got to see George Carlin in person because that's how they started. They played a lot of the college circuits.
Absolutely.
And George Carlin was incredible. He was a genius.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Robert Klein was fantastic. I mean, he really just, some people, when they mention, they always, it's such a compliment, but I'm nowhere. I'm not in the same ballpark as him, but it was fantastic.
He was very, very good.
Just fantastic. And the one with my foot, what was it? He got I can't stop my foot from shaking. I forgot what it was. But he's got a whole, just routine and absolutely.
So tell me about these comedy festivals that you've been in. And I heard, rumor has it, that you won one, at least one.
Every single one I've been in.
So this documentary that you're in. So tell us about this documentary.
Yeah, Natalie Levant and myself were followed around for 4 years by a producer. Anyway, names are skipping around, but for 4 years, and then she put on a documentary which won first prize, and we were interviewed by Fig Notaro, and with the Q&A, and it's all been uphill since then, except for poor Natalie, who right after that had a stroke of her eye and lost vision in one eye, right. But she still continues, and she's 92, and we've won wherever it gets played. It got picked up by New Yorker, and we had an audience of 3 million people listening to it on NPR.
And what is the name of the documentary?
Still Standing.
Still Standing.
Yes, and it might even be because New Yorker has contacts, so it might even be in the Academy Awards at some point if it does happen.
But aside from you and Natalie, are there any other comics that both you and I would know that are in it?
No. There was one, but she got ill, and she's not in it. And she's very good too, in her 80s. But she's not in it's just the two of us.
So, are there more and more comics now who are octogenarians and above?
Oh, yeah, loads of them. Many of them don't tell their own jokes, and that's a no-no, really. They're just.
Yeah, I heard that the cardinal rule in comedy is not to steal other people's material.
Yeah. And to be original, and all of that. But lots of people, like Amy Schumer, apparently has a reputation for stealing from 10 different comics and so on.
I heard that.
And she claims it wasn't somebody, and all of that. But
with everything that goes on every day, I mean, I look at Jerry Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. Jerry Seinfeld literally took nothing and made it into something.
Yeah.
Because everything that you see every single day, it's observation.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, as New Yorkers, I mean, you could just sit by outside a restaurant and just watch everybody go by, and there's so much material you can come up with. So why would there be the need to have to take other people's material? I think it's
the lazy way out.
I was going to say it's being lazy and not creative.
And it's low fruit and all that. Yeah. It's just.
But like, say for instance, you in your lifetime as a psychologist, there's so much I'm sure that you can bring forth because you've studied people.
Yeah, but I've also taken Fred Allen, who is a wonderful humorist on the radio, a long time ago, and he had a routine about how. He had some notes. Whenever he thought of a joke, he wrote it on his shirt cuffs. And he said the next day he saw his laundryman doing his act. So I use that now because it's public domain. I mean, he's gone. And certainly the young people wouldn't have known that. And I've changed it, but, I started, with that.
But you start with the premise, and then you build it.
And then I said, when he comes to the punchline, I said his performance was great. His, everything was observations, all that. But then when it came to the punchline, he said, "Punchline not ready. Come back next week." So I always added to it and enhanced it and all of that. And to me, it's the greatest pleasure in the world. There's nothing like it for me. I could just talk it, do it 24 hours a day, and just it's just a passion.
Well, I share that passion with you
Yes.
because I enjoy getting on stage. I enjoy making people laugh. Everyone has problems. Everyone has issues that they're going through. There are days people, of course, have a bad day. And if I can bring a smile to somebody's face at the end of the day and escape from whatever horrors or problems I was dealing with for the day, I enjoy making people laugh. And if we're able to do that, that to me is such a gift.
Yeah. Not only this, but people, when I get reports back from people, the ones where I'm really the best, it's not so much my delivery and so on at the beginning. It's the audience's response.
Yes.
And if they're high, it's almost like lovemaking. If they
they're
give a high,
receptive, yes.
then I give more, and they give more, and they give more, and there's
That's
no
what I'm saying.
other feeling.
That the laughter from the audience just fuels
Yes.
me that I just want to keep going.
Yeah,
I mean, standing up there and telling jokes and not getting any response to me means nothing. I could do that at home and just talk to the wall.
Yeah.
But when you get that response and you're connecting with someone and the laughter, I'm just like, I don't want to get off the stage because I know and that is such a high. The endorphins, and it just feels so good.
I once auditioned for the Gotham, I guess it was. Anyway, it was going well. And then I said a joke which no one laughed at, and I wasn't used to it. Most comics are used to it. And it threw me. There was no laugh. And finally, Al Martin rightfully said, I need consistency. And we didn't have it. So, but I'm used to that now, and I'm prepared for, some kind of retort and so on. So it's, you develop more experiences, and I'm much more experienced now than I was 8 years ago.
Right.
But when you look at my material 8 years ago, the essence of it was there, and it probably was there when I was 10, because I've always done this. I've always loved it, and I just very, very, very fortunate that way.
Well, you know what I would like? I would like for you and I together to perform at the Garden, but not the Olive Garden.
Okay.
But,
I can't have olives, so it's okay.
Okay, so that's good. But anything big? Where does your next performance? So for anybody here in New York, where is your next performance that everyone could come see you?
And it's going to be a good one. It's going to be at Gladys's. It's the Pro Show on the 27th
of October.
Next Thursday.
That's next Thursday.
And
and when we say Gladys's, we're referring to the Comic Strip Live on 2nd Avenue.
81st.
And 81st Street here in New York City.
And Jim Gaffigan may or may not be there. He used to.
He started the same way that you and I did.
He walked Gladys's dogs. He slept there, and he would do anything for Gladys. And I've been on with him technically. I could say I opened for him because I opened the show. 3 hours later, he closed it. We never saw each other, but technically I could say.
We were on the same show together. I know. I've done shows with you too. I've done your birthday show, the Pro Show.
Yeah. But that's a good one on the 27th. And there's going to be a big crowd. And but we can hold over 200 seats. So it's going to be wonderful. And it starts at 8:00. And are you going to be there?
I'm going to be there.
Good. Okay. And
if you're going to be there, I'm going to be there.
Ask Gladys if you can be on. I don't know. Yeah, check with her.
She'll squeeze me in.
Yeah. No, she likes it.
I love Gladys.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for joining us tonight.
I want to thank you for thanking me. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And this was wonderful. I really was. It was my pleasure because I know you for so long, and you just have such an incredible story.
Mm.
And we have to continue sharing the laughter with everyone in New York
Right.
City.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And you've been here at Pamela Roth Live with me, Pamela Roth, of course, and the one and only George Saltz.
Right.
So thank you, everyone. And please support stand-up comedy because we are back. The pandemic is over. No more masks. And you come, sit, enjoy live comedy here in New York. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, George. Bye, everybody.